This is a really exciting kind of story for us and not one that we've ever been able to document before. And I want to talk a little bit about some purchases that you made. 2 cars. I just learned this morning that it's 2. I thought it was only 1. And maybe you could just give me a little bit of background as to what led to the purchases of these cars.
Sure. We have 4 children. 3 of them are older. 1's younger. The 3 older ones are 17, 20, and 22. My oldest daughter had a Nissan that was a 2009, I think. We bought it when they were doing the cash for clunker thing. Got a really good deal on it, and she let her then boyfriend drive it, and he totaled it. And we were thinking we were going to get a car. So rather than buy her a newer car, since she made such a good choice the first time, we decided to take that money and buy 2 used cars.
Okay, so an accident led to sort of the trigger.
Yes.
And you had a new driver in the family and an older daughter who needed a car. And so this is what actually prompted this, okay?
Right.
All right, so just thinking about cars in general, before you even bought these cars, how much attention do you pay to the advertising that is done all around you? Television, billboards, that has to do with cars. Are you aware of it? Do you pay attention to it?
I wouldn't say that I'm that aware. I'm not really a car person. I mean, there are people that see cars and they have their favorite car and they just long to have a certain type of car. That's not who I am.
You bought the cars in November of 2012?
Yes.
Okay. When did you start looking?
The accident actually occurred in September, and it took, a little while for the insurance stuff, but we started looking probably maybe end of September, beginning of October. So we did a lot of research and we looked for quite a while. We didn't want to make some hasty decision. We wanted to really take our time and find what would work for the family.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So you're in end of September, beginning of October. You know you're going to have to purchase 2 cars. How did you start doing this? What did you do first, if you can remember that?
Right. I went right to the internet. I remember Auto Trader from when I was a teenager, only then it was a magazine you picked up at 7-Eleven. And so I did go online and go on autotrader.com, and then also other internet sites, which was like, I'm trying to remember if it was like through the Fresno Bee or just Googling, car sales in Fresno. Went on a couple different sites. And one of the things I noticed is a lot of people put their cars on all the sites. So you could see the same, 2005 Civic on Auto Trader as well as the other websites.
Do you remember the names of any of the other sites that you looked at?
Not off the top of my head.
So they weren't large brand names that you hear
No.
advertising for. These were local sites.
Yes.
And the way you found these local sites was you went on,
Just Googled them.
you Googled them, and then you went from there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your online experience. You started about 2 months?
Yeah, probably at
Prior?
least 6 weeks.
Okay. How often did you go online?
I probably at least 2 to 3 times a week, because I wanted to, because things come and go on the websites so quickly. So I probably checked at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. And let's talk about that process now. So you've been thinking about this. There's something that triggered the desire, the need for the car. You started going in and looking online. Were there any other influences offline? Did you drive by dealerships at all?
Yes.
Okay.
If you just see cars for sale, in parking lots or, where you work, and we did go to a couple of dealerships where we had bought the Nissan before. We went there and looked at their used cars. Actually, I guess I shouldn't say we just drove by. We saw some cars on Auto Trader that were at the Lithia dealership, and that's why we went there. So there was a few of them in our price range, and we just went and looked at them.
Okay. So were you searching mainly by a price range? You had decided how much you wanted to allocate
Correct.
to each of these, so it had to be within this price range.
Right.
Okay. And you actually did some on-lot searches as
Right.
well.
And we actually test drove some cars.
And this was all at one particular dealership, or did you go to more than
We
one?
went to a couple of them.
A couple of them. And so as you were doing all of this, you'd go home and you'd go back online.
Yes.
Okay, and then how did you actually find the dealer that you ended up buying your cars from?
Ironically, it's across. I work at a major medical center here in Fresno at Community Regional Medical Center, and there's the medical center, train tracks, and then that dealership. I've worked there for years, never even noticed it. Had no idea it was there, but it's literally walking distance. Walk across the train tracks, and there it is from where I work every day. So, it was just because it was in the Auto Trader that's where the dealership was.
So you saw it first online?
Correct.
Without even thinking that it was right where you were working?
Correct. I've
Okay.
never ever noticed it. Now I notice it all the time because I know it's there, but I had never even seen it. And it's, they have their flags and their all kinds of stuff that has Auto Depot and all this, but I just never noticed.
So all of that sort of attention-getting roadside display really wasn't what brought you there.
It wasn't what brought me there at all.
It was what
I
was
never
online.
even noticed it.
Okay, all right, so that's, and dealers need to know that, because can I
Yeah.
tell you, they spend a fortune on that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, so now you're looking online. What attracts you to Auto Depot?
It wasn't that I was attracted to Auto Depot, I was attracted to the car. And
Okay.
that's what led us to go there.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the ad online. What do you remember stood out? Because you're served 25 different cars on the page.
Right.
Something made you want to look more into that car.
Right.
Can you
Probably
tell?
the price and the condition of the car. They had a lot of pictures, whatever, 25 or however many they can put. And a lot of the other websites that I looked at, there would only be like one or two or maybe three. Even like CarMax doesn't put that many pictures on their website. And I liked having lots of pictures that showed every little detail, and it shows the mileage, the picture of the mileage, and it really showed the condition of the car, that the inside of the car was clean, the upholstery was still good and intact, and that the car, it showed all the different sides of the car, so it wasn't all scratched up. So I would say the attention to detail on getting pictures of the car on there, and
Was there a description that they had written about the car as well?
I definitely like the sites that put a lot of information. I think on your website there's the pictures, and then there's a whole little blurb about it, and it tells, stuff about the engine and the mileage and all that. And I like having as much information as possible. And they listed the price, and whenever there wasn't a price listed, I didn't even look at it, because I don't know if they think people are going to call. But for me, if there wasn't a price, I didn't even go any further. So
Interesting. And let me tell you what, there are dealers that still do that today. And
Yeah.
obviously you saw that online because
Yeah.
you saw cars that had no price.
yeah, and they think, I don't know if they think you're going to take the time to call, but there's so much out there that I don't need to. What was the reason I went to different websites? I just thought that there would be a lot of different cars on the different sites, and so I was trying to just get a really global look at what cars were available. Because I wasn't sold on, I want to buy a 2002 Audi. I wasn't like, I have to find this car. I was just trying to find a car that fit the parameters I was looking at. And so I went on the different websites because I thought, well, different websites are going to have different cars. And I did discover that some of the cars, not all of the cars, but some of the cars were listed on multiple websites. But I felt like the Auto Trader had the best pictures and the best descriptions of the cars. And that's why I ended up primarily sticking with, that was the one I looked at every few days.
Did largest selection play into this at all?
Yeah, it did, because I wanted to just see what was out there. And when like I said, we looked for a long time before we actually went and looked at cars. And definitely Auto Trader always had the most volume of cars listed.